I don't feel like the Cowboys deserve a championship.
They had a run. And
like Cleveland Browns deserve a championship. The Chicago Bears, they deserve a championship like the Clippers. Think about it, though. The Clippers. Just think about it. They've never sniffed what it's like to be in the finals ever.
I am stepping away from my Washington football team loyalty and my known Cowboys whatever-ism feeling toward them. I don't understand why they don't deserve one, though, in your mind. Because they have.
Washington?
You said the Cowboys don't.
Because
you said Washington doesn't either.
Because when you walk into Cowboy Stadium or you walk into the facility, the trophies are sitting there, even though they're past. They still see them.
That was a hell of an era.
So your criteria, for sure, your criteria is never done it or hasn't done it in forever and ever and ever.
It's just forever and ever and ever.
Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Ever.
Forever, ever.
Okay.
Forever, ever?
You know?
Forever, ever?
Like the Clippers, they don't even know what it's like.
Right?
Think about it.
Been in the
building.
They have
no idea.
They haven't even been on the stage.
They have no idea what it's
Clippers,
You know what?
I got you. Now that you've clarified the distinction, I'm following.
A perfect time to bring in our good friend, Quentin Richardson. Speaking of Clippers, former NBA player, of course, joins us right now on the Goodyear Hotline. Brought to you by Goodyear, helping you discover the road ahead. Goodyear, more driven. Q, good morning. Would you put the Clippers on that list of franchises that deserve a shot at a title, deserve a chance to win a title the most out of any sport, any fan base?
I wouldn't put us very high on that list, but I think I would say that with the recent changes and the direction we're going in, that we're getting to that point where we deserve it. As far as I think the fans have been deserving it, but I think from an organizational standpoint, we now we can start capping on those years.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what Q's saying.
I get it too.
I get it. But it's
previous ownership didn't deserve to have a ring.
Previous ownership, exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't deserve.
Didn't want to see him enjoy that at all.
No question about that.
Q handled that very tactfully. By the way.
Of course. I mean,
he's a pro.
He's been there, done that before. Speaking of championships and deserving, Phoenix is up 2-0 now, getting ready to head on the road to Milwaukee in 3. Is this over with now? Is it a wrap, or it's too early to say that?
Yeah, I absolutely believe it's too early to say that it's a wrap and it's over because Milwaukee, like you say, Phoenix did exactly what they were supposed to do. No matter what fashion it was done, they protected their home court and won the 2 games. Now Milwaukee has to go back home to Milwaukee and regroup, try and re-strategize, and come back out and do the same thing on their floor.
What's the most impressive thing you've seen so far from the Suns outside of what I would call their big 3?
I would say Bridges, man. Yeah. Bridges, and I'm most impressed with Bridges and Crowder. For one, Crowder, I love the fact. I mean, Key, I'm a OG. I love the veteran leadership he brings to the team. I love the toughness he brings to the team. I love the mentality and disposition that he brings to the team. He has a toughness and a physicality to him, and a no back down and a no nonsense to him that I love, and I feel like teams need. And then when you look at what Bridges is doing, he's been an X factor between, his defense, the length that he has, and the ability he has to impact Middleton defensively and some other guys. But I mean, his shooting and scoring and being that other guy who's just gonna make shots and make plays, whether it's a slash to the basket or offensive rebound or a great defensive play, he's just been very impactful in that X factor role, and they haven't really had an answer for him.
One thing we keep hearing from this Suns squad, Q, is the accountability, the way that they are able to check one another, push one another. I know that's not something you can quite quantify when you look at a box score, but how special is it to have this young group that really just kind of has leaned into letting Chris Paul take the reins and show them how to get to the promised land?
It's unbelievable. I really believe it starts with Monty, though. It was a really good clip last night in the game from a timeout when you could see DeAndre Ayton was kind of down on himself because this was probably the most he struggled to this point right now in the playoffs. He's been pretty dominant, had his way a lot, and he was having kind of a tough time. And it was great to see Monty have a great coaching moment with him, letting him know that, hey, you're disappointed in yourself right now because you set the bar so high. and don't think that you can't go out there and reach that level. But, also don't believe that you have to do it statistically. You can go dominate the game and impact the game with your force. And it was just great to see him. He had his head down. He made him look up at him. He leaned into him. And you could tell that was really coaching. As a player, as a player, that's what you need, and that's what you love to see from your coaches.
Speaking of coaching, Q, I want you to listen to something Stephen A. Said last night on SportsCenter after Game 2, something we have been talking a lot about on the Bucs side of things with Mike Budenholzer. And I just want to get your reaction to it. But first, take a listen to it. Here's Stephen A.
You see Devin Booker hitting shots early, okay, from three-point range, and assistant coaches are looking to talk to Budenholzer, and Budenholzer's not even listening to them, okay? He's not making any in-game adjustments. That was a pivotal problem as far as I'm concerned. We can look at Drew Holiday and no 7 for 21 shooting. He was absolutely awful offensively. Middleton, he really needs to look in the mirror. When Pat Connaughton has more points than you coming off the bench, he had 14, you had 11, even though you took 6 more shots. That's incredibly problematic. You waste an effort from Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was nothing short of sensational, and primarily because you didn't make the necessary in-game adjustments. It's like any time you throw a monkey wrench into the plan that Budenholzer had coming into it, then he seems to be a bit flummoxed.
Now, we look at players and we say, well, they got to make shots, right? You talk about Middleton, he's got to make shots. Drew Holiday's got to make shots. Giannis can't do it all by himself. But what Stephen A. is saying, and a lot of people say this about Budenholzer, is that adjustments-wise, he has not been good. As a player, do you look to your coach and say, hey, what are we doing? And if he doesn't make an adjustment, does that affect the team's mentality?
I can't say that I'm arguing with some of the stuff you just said. And if I'm a player, we do look to our coaches for the adjustments. But I mean, the one thing I will say, I feel that the Coach Bud, he made adjustments from game 1 to 2. But I think the key word in that sentence was in-game adjustments, and that's what we haven't seen him do. Because I think I applaud him for the way and the style in which he switched guarding the pick and roll last night. They started off very aggressive with Chris Paul and anybody in the pick and roll. But the thing was they were getting over the pick and roll and fighting through and staying with them. But the thing that I think stands out when they talk about in-game adjustments was that they, to a fault, they stuck to the plan. Sometimes you would see the screen, a few steps over half court, which is way too high to be fighting over a screen or getting over. At that point, you should redirect and go under because he's too high. Unless it's Steph Curry or somebody pulling up from half court, you shouldn't be going over a screen out there. And they continue to do that, deep into the second half after, Phoenix adjusted and playing it differently. They continue to fight over, and that's where Chris Paul began to shake loose a little bit and get to his mid-range and get downhill. And I think that was a point where it really stuck out to me. He's not changing up. He's not making in-game adjustments with this.
Quentin Richardson joining us here this morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Q, let me ask you this question because Han seems to, he's batting it around in his head a little bit and trying to convince me that certain things could happen. Chris Paul wins the championship, ride off into the sunset. His deal is up. He can exercise out. Does he go back to Los Angeles and team up with LeBron James and Anthony Davis and back home in L.A. where his family is at, or does he stay in Phoenix to ride this thing all the way out?
Call me crazy, man, but I think he stays put, especially if they win a championship. I mean, I don't see how you walk away from the defending the title in the same place. And then some of these relationships and bonds that I feel like he's got. I feel like what he has with Monty Williams is what makes this season possible. The relationship that him and Devin Booker bonded right away and hit off. I think that's why they're able to have this season. And the same thing with DeAndre Ayton. I think those things will be too much. I think as long as everything contractually works out the way he wants it to, I think all of those other things, especially if they really win the title, I don't see him going anywhere.
See, I would think that's his out, right? Got your ring. That would be the out. If they don't win the championship, I feel like I still owe you some time. But I got you your ring, and now it's like let me just finish up playing with LeBron, playing in L.A., right closer to home. But again, as Key always says, That's why I'm a reporter and not a player. I think of it always as for the story. What's the better story? But Q, I just want to shout out your podcast, Knuckleheads Podcast. You and Darius Miles. It's a must listen because it's a lot of fun. And I know you had LJ on recently. Grandmama telling those stories. It's always a good listen. So we always love having you on. Thanks, my man.
All right, Q.
Thanks for waking up early, Q.
All right, Quentin Richardson again, a Clipper. He played a lot of different teams, but as he mentioned, the Clippers, I thought it was a funny way he put it. It's like, yeah, maybe now more deserving, but there was a time not
very
so
tactical.
much.
Clearly a bad owner.
But we
Not
are
only
asking
a bad
you,
owner,
you think-
a bad dude.
I mean, maybe the worst possible owner ever. But let's not do that ranking.
Yeah, I was
Let's
about to say,
instead
whoa.
ask the question that we've been asking, and we've asked you, we ask everybody else.
Top 5 bad owners.
Yeah.
The list.
The list.
888-729-3776. Fan bases, franchises that deserve a championship the most, ones that have just been through so much, that have suffered, been through a lot, and you're like, man, they got to get one. Just give them one because they really deserve it. Let's go to Preston in Baltimore. Preston.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's happening?
Good morning.
Morning. I'm thinking about this. I'm living in Baltimore, but I'm from PA originally, a big Pittsburgh fan. You guys haven't really talked about the Pirates at all. If you think about it, probably, 5-10 years ago when they made the playoffs with Burnett, McCutcheon, all those guys, that city was going nuts.
Yeah.
And then, now, I mean, granted, the owner probably doesn't deserve it the way he's handling this situation, but the team, the fan base, I think they're one of the big ones that deserve it.
That's the thing. You're right. Pittsburgh, by the way, fantastic sports town. Fantastic sports town. Love going there to cover whether it was a Steelers game or Penguins. I've never covered a Pirates game, but that franchise, man.
Because I ain't talked about the Pirates